Modern political campaigns of all kinds are built on modern digital marketing practices. Throw in some old school pressing the flesh to meet the voters, where the real magic still happens and you are ready to compete. Whether you're looking to earn 250 votes or 250,000 votes to win your election, every campaign requires a digital infrastructure. My name is Lauren Collin, and in this episode of the We Unite, We Win podcast, Running Independent series, I am going to review the 10 must-have digital solutions for your campaign. The information here is based on my experience running right now as a candidate for US House CA34 to represent Los Angeles. Fortunately, none of these recommendations have to be expensive. The number one driver of cost is how many votes are up for grabs in your district. I am excited to always be bringing you more of this content. Please consider supporting this work and becoming a paying member at $9 per month by visiting weunitewewin.com. Join me and help grow the independent movement in America. Together, we can end the Democratic and Republican two-party duopoly in order to build a better America that works for all of us. I am not a lawyer. As a candidate, it is your responsibility to follow the laws and regulations required to run for your particular race. Now, the 10 must-have digital solutions you need for your campaign are a campaign bank account, Google G Suite, a website, a donation application, an outreach application, email, SMS segmentation and customer journeys for automation, campaign team collaboration app, a bio-in-link solution, and campaign finance filing software. Finally, related and number 10 is social media platforms, but those don't necessarily cost you anything. Let's dive in and we'll take each one individually. First, a campaign bank account. The beauty of having a dedicated campaign bank account is that it keeps your campaign's funds separate from your personal funds. And pretty much for any race that has any sort of campaign finance requirement, which I'm going to assume is like 99.9% of them, really your only duty to run an honest and open campaign is to track the money that comes in from legal donations and track how that money gets spent going out. And your online bank account for your campaign will be that sole source of transactions for everything related expenditure-wise to your campaign, which ultimately you will need for filing requirements. Number 2 on the list of digital platform requirements is probably the most on the nose. You will need a campaign domain and a website. Now, there's the one caveat to website. Some people will actually be able to run a whole campaign off of something like a Facebook page. And those are probably your smaller campaigns. Maybe you are an independent candidate who's decided to run against a longtime incumbent who always runs unopposed, and you need a few hundred votes, and you know everyone in your community, and your community is already on Facebook, and you know this is where you're going to reach them. You could be fine. For anything larger, you will want your campaign domain. For some people, it is just their first and last name.com. For many people, it is their first and last name and the office they're running for. For example, mine is laurencollinforcongress.com. For other people, it's something, maybe they have a fun last name and they do a play of words that somehow gets people to understand that they are indeed running for office. A domain is imperative. First step to getting a website. I use GoDaddy, and for the price, I have never had a complaint, but there are many domain registrars out there. You will find the one that is best for you. Your domain will have to have a full, complete website associated with it. As I researched becoming a candidate early in January, or I guess after I had already declared my candidacy and researched now what, there are lots and lots and lots of third-party design and host software out there specifically for people running campaigns. And some of these are for Democrats only. Some are for Republicans only. Some, believe it or not, are for independents only. And then, of course, there's that slew that will take anybody's money to build your campaign website. Now, I took a different route because I'm trying to be as cost conscious as possible. And I've gone the route of building my own from a Webflow template. This is something that I'm fortunate to be able to do because I have a close personal friend who's able to do this volunteer work for me. If you don't have the skill set to build your own website, then I highly recommend that you find one of the off-the-shelf versions that, again, it is a template, but what you can and cannot accomplish with that template is pretty straightforward. And the cool thing is the templates are pretty universal. You're going to have your landing page, a donate button, forms to fill out, a place for volunteers to gather and raise their hands, and places for you to share your own media and news, and of course, a place for your platform. But the cool thing about the templates is they are pretty universal. Again, the difference is sort of to scale how many people might be visiting your website, or if you want a particular look, right? If you're okay just using someone's template as is, then a lot of the less expensive options will be great for you. If you are looking for your very own design for your campaign and you have an aesthetic that you want to accomplish, you'll either need to use something like Webflow and go out on your own, or you'll find that there are more expensive third-party options specifically for campaigns that will fit your needs. Number 3 on the list of campaign digital platform must-haves is Google Workspace. Now, I usually don't name the actual product when I'm offering what the solution is, but in this case, the product is the solution. And I highly recommend Google Workspace. Once you have your URL, you rush, you run, you open up that next browser tab as quickly as you can, and you get yourself set up on Google Workspace. For you, the candidate, it's $7 a month. And if you add a campaign manager, it's $14 a month. I believe it is the best $7 or $14 you will spend. What do I use Google Workspace for? Well, number 1 is once you integrate it with your URL, it becomes your campaign's official email. And there's nothing like having your email and your URL all be the same. So, for example, I am Lauren Collin for Congress.com, and you can email me at Lauren@LaurenCollin for Congress.com. While there are third-party options and definitely other ways, and a lot of your hosting providers or domain providers will offer you email services, sometimes even through Google Workspace, I highly recommend just go to Google Workspace, create your own account from scratch, sign up for a single user business account from scratch, and get going. Integrate that campaign email, your URL. And then the other thing that I do, and why I say it's the best $7 or $14 you're going to spend, is if you are a small campaign, you're short on funds, or you're going to be a big campaign that will scale one day, you need to record every interaction. You need a place to either have your voter list that you've purchased or the voter list that you are making by hand because you know who's voting. And you'll want a campaign contact list. Basically, I use Google Workspace Sheets right now as my personal customer relationship management database or CRM database. I think I learned as I've been campaigning only for, well, technically I've had a campaign for 3 months now, that if I could have changed anything in my professional life of the last 2.5 decades, nearly 3 decades, I would have always had a contact list in Google Sheets and have kept that going forever and ever. Basically, the rule of thumb with a campaign is any and every interaction you have related to your campaign, you write down. And if you have volunteers or staff or anyone working for your campaign, they also get in the habit of taking down notes for every single interaction. On your voter list, you're going to want to know how many times you've connected with a voter. You'll want to know if they say they're going to vote for you. Ultimately, you'll want to know if they have actually voted for you either through early voting or because they are walking to the polls or driving to the polls on election day. And this is all information that is key to any successful campaign. And it's really easy to use any spreadsheet service to add your contacts, to add your voter list, and to track all of those engagements. Voters are a special group of people. While you would love to have every single voter be a follower of your campaign and volunteer for your campaign and donate to your campaign and host house parties for your campaign, really at the end of the day, you only want one thing from a voter, and that is by election day to have gone down or gone out and pulled that lever or punched that card for you on the ballot, right? While it's great to have this world of what you want the voter to do, at the end of the day, there's just one thing to vote for you. The campaign contact list, though, could be full and should be full of lots of non-voters, right? These are people that you meet who might not be in your district, but they certainly want to see you win your office. These are the people who could be your followers to help you spread the message to make sure your voters hear it. They could be your volunteers who go walk and canvass for you, or text bank, or phone bank, so that your voters hear more of your message. It can be the people who are donating, and you want to thank those people who donate and maybe even ask them for more or to spread their wings and connect to their network to get that network to donate to you. Even again, like house parties, right? People who aren't necessarily in your district, but want to see you win and want to support you any way you can. Your campaign contact list will also have all of the organizations in your district and businesses that aren't voters per se. You go to a local business, you talk to the owner who you will be representing as a business owner, even if they don't live in your district. You'll want to record that information. You go to a political event or a non-political event, and you run into someone and you have a conversation about your campaign. You want to get home, remember everything you can. When you get home, the first thing you want to do is sit down and do that data dump of information of everyone you met into your campaign contact list. And there's no easier way to start and to build the habit than to use a spreadsheet like Google Sheet. We'll talk later. As your campaign grows, you might grow out of sheets, and there's solutions for that. The most important button on your website will be your donation button. You're going to need to raise money to keep your campaign going. And again, from the smallest, you need 250 votes, to the largest, you need 250,000 votes. You are going to want to raise money to fund your campaign. And the way to do that is with a donation app. One of the most interesting findings I had as I was doing my research is just how many third-party donation apps there are. There are some, again, that are specifically for campaigns, and they're great because they know that you will have, as a candidate, specific filing requirements, and they make it as easy as possible, not just to collect all of that data, but to move that data around so ultimately it gets to where you need to put it in your filings. There are plenty of other donation platforms that, while they do not specifically cater to campaigns, they might have an option where a campaign is a type of client that they have. And you will also find within these much larger offerings exactly what you need as far as being able to capture and report all of your donation data. I think you'll find that there are multiple options as far as how you pay for these donation apps. Some want to charge you monthly fees plus fees on top of each donation. Then there's an upfront cost whether you get a single donation or not. There are also plenty of options where you don't pay a thing. They only take off the top. Again, as campaigns scale and get larger, maybe there's a benefit to paying some sort of monthly minimum that lowers your overall percentage. But for someone starting out who just needs to raise money and doesn't want to think about it, and an extra 1 or 2% going to the provider doesn't really make a difference because you are saving time and effort and not spending money that you otherwise do not have. absolutely, you can do what I did and go with something like Antidote, and their option only takes off the top. I find it really easy to use and really easy to integrate. And that's the other thing. Your donation app isn't just the button, but it will integrate, hopefully seamlessly, into the rest of your campaign as far as your campaign's branding, as far as being able to use specific donation pages for knowing that you're collecting from your website, or maybe you're collecting while canvassing or at an event. So again, there's lots of different variation within the donation apps that aren't just about getting the money, but also how you will actually be asking for donations, and you'll want the flexibility to meet your campaign's needs. Like I said at the top, the real magic of any campaign is still getting out and canvassing. Most outreach apps now are a combination of not just canvassing, but using their application to reach your voters via email or phone banking, text banking, and events. A lot of them are these Swiss Army knives that let you do basically all of your outreach in one application. That being said, there are also specialty versions. Some of these also, while they may be their own Swiss Army knife, also offer integrations into other similar applications. Those ones that offer integrations, as you might expect, tend to be more expensive. I have found for my campaign out the door an incredibly useful app called Universe.app that I use primarily right now for canvassing. And again, I am running for Congress. I have a very large voter list, 370,000 people. It is expensive to track the data of 370,000 people. Fortunately, with Universe.app, I am able to have all of that data and manage it in such a way that is extremely cost effective for my campaign. The cool thing about Universe is, as I increase donations and I'm ready to do more and more digital campaigning, it is a Swiss Army knife. And I will be able to do other things like phone bank and text bank, which is really great. I will be honest, when I was doing my research, I did not find sort of the one outreach app that did it all. There were many outreach apps that got close and they were on the more expensive side. But every campaign is different, and you will find the solution that is right for you. The importance of the outreach app is, especially from a voter list perspective, it is the next level up from something like Google Sheets. Now, while you won't be able to necessarily append data that their system doesn't allow, the cool thing about all of these applications is that when you are canvassing, you are recording in real time your interaction with a voter. And that's the same thing when you or volunteers are phone banking or text banking or sending emails. If your campaign is going to win when you collect just a few hundred votes, you might find that you will need nothing more than the spreadsheet. Once you get past a few hundred into like the low thousands, it becomes really hard to track data in a spreadsheet, especially when it is needed to be updated multiple times over a campaign, because there'll be multiple touch points and you'll want to capture each of them. That is where the outreach apps are most handy. They can become your voter CRM, where you use the app to not just canvass, but when you're canvassing, you are able to put in real time your interactions with the voters, and your volunteers would do the same thing. This also goes for outreach apps that include your outbound emails, your phone banking, your text banking, and managing events. It really, again, comes down to data. And the data is so important because you want to know the people who are willing to vote for you. You want to know the people who have actually gone out to vote for you. And you want to know the people who can be persuaded. But you also want to know the people who cannot be persuaded or who just won't vote, so that you don't waste your time trying to win them over. Now, once you've gotten everybody in the bag, who will vote for you and who has actually gone out already and voted for you. And once you flip all of those people who were persuadable, sure, once you've done all of that, then you can go and try and turn the people who will pretty much always say no or refuse to vote. But having that data about how people vote is super important. Whatever data you originally start with, you will be refining over time, and your outreach apps will help you do that. Maybe 6 should be 5.5, but I have separated out email, SMS segmentation, and customer journeys because from a complete campaign perspective of emails, the outreach apps tend to focus only on your voters. So a CRM that lives above everything would be able to not just have voters, but everyone who's on your campaign contact lists, the people who donate, volunteers, the people who are in community organizations, local businesses, all of those contacts that aren't your voters. You're still going to want to drive conversations with them. And most of the time, the outreach apps are voter specific outreach. So you will need another way to connect to everyone else in your campaign. For many of you on the smaller campaign side, you've already got your solution. Once you got G Suite, you manage your list and you can import lists into Google Workspace and send out email blasts through Google, no problem. That is what BCC is for. Like, you can manage those campaigns. Super easy. And even do a little tiny bit of design, right, within a Google email template. All of that's possible. Once you get to hundreds of people or multiple emails a month, then Google becomes really hard. You'll want an email, SMS segmentation, and customer journey application. I say email/SMS because these days there's almost no standalone email segmentation app. They pretty much are all email and SMS. There are campaign specific versions of these products, and they offer really great rates. They also, as one would expect, right, the cost curve is for a smaller campaign, it's not that expensive. Could be in the tens or $20s a month. For campaigns for Congress, you could be looking at $400 a month, or even into the thousands of dollars a month once you actually start sending your emails and SMSs. But you'll really want to look hard at the price structures of all of these different types of software. I now use Klaviyo. I come out of a marketing world. I've used it before, and it suits the needs for my campaign today. It's also possible that Klaviyo might not be the right one to scale with, but I will make that decision when the time comes. Congratulations, your campaign team is growing. Slack. You will want an easy way that's not just text messages to communicate to your team. There are many, many, many different platforms out there. If you are a Microsoft person, you might already have Teams, and you can extend that to the people on your team. For non-Microsoft people, or if you want something standalone, there's always Slack. Slack, for most campaigns, the free version will work out wonderfully. And again, when it's time to scale and pay, it's not a super expensive product. As you add more and more members to your team, it can certainly get pricey, but you will be the judge of who really needs to be in Slack, who needs to be on a collaboration app, and who doesn't. You could create a Discord server for your campaign and have everyone in your campaign meet there. You can also do something like Circle. There are multiple options, but again, I just find Slack to do the job that I needed to do. And right now, the price that I need it at. If you have a campaign that's just beginning, you're always going to be cost conscious. You don't want to waste any donation on infrastructure that shouldn't be going to ultimately getting out the vote and convincing people to vote for you. Number 8 on the list of campaign digital platform must-haves is something that I've just finally started using myself, a link in bio app. This is because a lot of social media, you're only allowed one link, maybe 2 links in a social media platform. But also, as you walk around, you'll find that you have multiple different platforms and not everybody wants to connect with each and every one. And you don't have an easy way of showing, hey, these are all the places that I am. The link in bio app provides your campaign with an outward facing web page that has all of the links to your website and your social media and a donate button all in one place. Why is this valuable? Well, because on many of the social media platforms you're using, you are only allowed to display one link. If you display your website link, it'll take everyone to their website, but maybe they're not a big fan of going to websites. So by having a link in bio link, they can hit that, it opens up a web page, and then they can choose where to follow you. Similarly, you might be out canvassing or at an event, and you want someone to follow you. Well, you can have a QR code either on your phone or in your wallet, or as I have printed on business cards that you can hand out with the link in bio app QR code that when someone hits it on, say, their cell phone, it takes them to the mobile webpage with all of your links. This is just a great way to have a one-stop shop for anyone and everyone to connect easily to your campaign. I highly recommend it. Most of these options are free, or the level of sophistication and services that you need, the free option should suffice for your campaign. But as you basically want to be able to track more data, if that is a thing for you, then you get into the options where you have to start paying. Wherever you are running, there will be guidelines and requirements for how and when to file for your campaign and how and when to file your campaign finance. When it comes to campaign finance, it's mostly online now for pretty much every office in every district in every state. Or sometimes where you might have an online option, you still have the option to also turn in things by hand. Ultimately, for me, I'm running for Congress. I only have one option. The US government, FEC, Federal Elections Commission, provides FEC file, and I need a PC only to run that. You will find that based on the office that you are running for, you will be required to submit your campaign filings. There may or may not be a piece of third-party software that you have to somewhat master to do that. They're all pretty straightforward. There are also third-party software options specifically for campaigns that allow you to put all of your campaign finance data into, and they have integrations either with something like FEC file or with your state's campaign finance software. Those options are out there. They cost money. As your campaign grows, you might find that to be a great option. If not, you as the candidate ultimately are responsible to make sure that everything is filed correctly and on time. Of those first 9, you want to keep costs down. I have tried to show you options that are free to start or very inexpensive. Of course, there are charges as they scale. Number 10 is slightly different. Your social media platforms, I just want to include them here under the big umbrella of your campaign digital platform must-haves. Really, I think your campaign will only be in one of up to 7 places. Meta has 3 of those: Facebook, Instagram, Threads. You might find yourself and your audience of voters or your audience of campaign supporters on TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, and if you are one to use it, X. I do not use X. Your mileage may vary. I include these here because it is free to create your campaign accounts on all of these social media platforms. However, once you start promoting content, it becomes a bit trickier, and every platform is different. Is a promoted content an ad? And if so, then it has to meet the advertising requirements for your campaign, if there are any. I know I've been saying there are 10 must-haves. Number 11 is, well, what happens when my campaign grows so much it's ready to scale? The solutions I've given you here are to get your campaign going, to launch it, to be cost conscious, and to be able to focus every dollar on meeting voters, interacting with voters, and getting voters out to vote for you. That is the only goal of your campaign. And you want to do it as inexpensively and as efficiently as possible. Ultimately, you will need to raise money. Ultimately, your campaign might scale to thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of voters, and that is going to cost money. That is just the hard truth. You might not be able to use sheets anymore, or you might not be able to get away with only having your voter list in an outreach app. You might need a real CRM, something like HubSpot or Salesforce. There are plenty of options that are campaign specific. They absolutely can get really expensive as you get into needing to track tens of thousands of voter records or more. There are also, as I've mentioned, some of the all-in-one CRMs specifically for campaigns that include outreach and your automated requirements for filing. Really cool solutions that I found. Ultimately, as your campaign scales, becomes expensive, but if you're making the money, they could pay for themselves in all of the time that you will see. So you might find that it is well worthwhile taking donation money and making it a campaign expense for these all-in-one campaign-specific outreach and campaign finance filing solutions. Finally, I also came across some really cool things that are not yet part of my campaign, which are specific apps designed to get your volunteers activated or people who support your campaign activated. It's one thing when you have a volunteer out canvassing, they're using your outreach app. But what about all the time that your canvasser or your volunteer is not out canvassing, but they're like, oh gosh, I really want to support your campaign. There are a whole bunch of new cool apps that I found that are specifically designed to get the people who volunteer and support your campaign to do easy things like social media or send emails on your behalf through their device. And you give them the templates for all that. So they use your templates that come out of these voter activation apps, but they do the work and you reward them, by putting them on the campaign leaderboard or something like that. To recap, the 10 must-haves: a campaign bank account, a website, Google Workspace, donation app, outreach app, email SMS segmentation and customer journey apps, a campaign team collaboration app, a link in bio app, and the campaign finance filing software. Many of those have free to start options. You only start to pay as you scale. Some of the options you immediately pay. But again, I try and give you things that really don't cost too much money until you have the money to spend. Finally, number 10, social media platforms. It is free to sign up to create your campaign accounts on all the social media platforms. You may start paying if you promote content. And also you have to think about if promoting content falls under being an ad for your campaign, then you have to properly disclose that it is an ad. There is no mystery to it. Anyone can pull together these 10 digital solutions to successfully run a campaign for the local school board or for US Senate. I am excited to always be bringing you more of this content. Please consider supporting this work and becoming a paying member at $9 per month by visiting weunitewewin.com. Join me and help grow the independent movement in America. Join me by volunteering. Join me by running for office. Join me as a citizen by walking into a voting booth and pulling the lever for independent candidates at every level of office. Together, we can end the Democratic and Republican two-party duopoly in order to build a better America that works for all of us. No fear, only love.